All right, David, a comparison between Harold Varner and your end of the lesson view. We can see a mild improvement to the pelvis functionality. And we'll take you, then we'll bring Harold Varner all the way up to the top of the golf swing. Now, you were originally at 56 degrees of pelvis rotation. You see a very similar build, a very similar stature with Harold Varner, which allows us to kind of check into how much his pelvis rotates as his golf club gets to a very similar condition at the top of his golf swing. His pelvis is rotated 38 degrees. Now, if we go face on, and I'm going to do this side by side, but if we go back to something that you and I discussed when you were in here, again, if I get us out of this position, look at how he basically sways with his pelvis and his rib cage about the same amount, obviously a little bit more with his pelvis, his lower body. You don't really sway all that much, which is one thing that I don't think that we need to go down the road of entertaining. I want to make sure that the pelvis learns how to rotate correctly and at the correct time. So we're going to throttle this back, and we're going to go all the way back to what we'll call mid down. Let me get him to the same point, you to the same point. Now, as we look at those numbers, very similar to a tour player, and the club is maybe 3 feet away from the golf ball. So we get to left arm parallel. Again, those numbers really haven't changed. The only thing that this player is doing relative to what you're doing is he's letting his lower body move a little bit of pressure into his right side. He's letting a little bit of his pressure move into his right trail side to create a little bit of a more efficient shift, and I think that's going to be a game changer for us. Now he gets to the very top, and the thrusting numbers start really drastically changing. And then by the time that the golf club is moving down, again, I'm going to get you and him to mid down. But you basically see a little bit different player here. He basically has his torso rib cage staying over the top of his pelvis while you're starting to increase right side bend, as you see him doing slightly, but yours obviously has a little bit different look to it. And there's certainly different timing requirements that are built into this. A little bit less extension through impact with the hands, wrists, arms, and the golf club. And then if we really kind of dive in at the end of the golf swing, there's not a lot of stability in your lower half. So when we lose a little bit of that stability, we have to expect something could potentially break down. So we might have a little bit of a spin out. We might have a little bit of a fallback move. Now with a longer golf club in your hand, that was something that was taking place. But this is actually an improvement based along how you came into 18 shots, the swing you brought in, the mindset you brought in. So I think we're on the right track. I very clearly think that you need to make sure your focus is clear to the aspects that we discussed. If you have any questions at all, let me know. So now you have a beginning of the coaching session on gears, end of the coaching session on gears. I'm going to jump into this mindset here. I'm going to turn this player off, but I do want you to see a few other players that play the game that are a little bit on the stocky side. Not stocky, but broad chest. This is Scott Stallings. Really solid golf swing, and again, he gets to the top, left arm parallel, top of the backswing. Now he's starting to move off of that trail side into his lead side with his lower body, and then his rib cage is going to start to move to get further behind it. He's going to be more in side bend. He's got a lot of forward shaft lean, and then from there basically he's going to release the golf club and then explode by standing over a tall left leg. I'm going to jump to a couple other players here. Again, looking at players that make more sense for us to look at. So again, when I'm looking at certain players, I've got a big laundry list of players that I think would bode well with you. But now we've got Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm we briefly picked up, but you can notice Jon Rahm, very similar build to you. At that stage, there's some, like you see there's some pelvis movement, some rib cage movement. Here's the pressure shift back into the left side. You can see the numbers with the sway and the thrust. If we look at this from a couple different vantage points, I'm going to take this back to the very beginning. Again, in this phrase, let me get the pelvis turn number so you can kind of relate to that. But John gets to the top of his golf swing. He basically is right around the number that you finished at today, specifically training with more of a short iron, 7-iron. Now through impact, he's 43 degrees open with his pelvis, and releases the golf club beautifully. So I think there's a lot of really promising things that we discuss. Yes, we can take it one step further. We can educate you on way more things about your golf swing, but at the end of the day, you have to master some of these basics before I can actually assign more tasks. And I think you're on the right track. I really feel like you're working on the right things. I do question, how well do you practice when you're on your own? How effective do you use the time on your own? So keep those things in mind. If you have any questions at all, let me know. And certainly stay in touch. Let me know how things are going in the next few days, the next week, end of the year, and then what are your goals going into 2023? David, it was a real pleasure. Talk to you real soon.